I think too small, I got big dreams. You just starting, I'm way ahead at the end scenes. Started reading and dodging all of the quick schemes. Money like your Spotify, boy, I got 10 streams. And I'm still looking for more. My people, they got a soul. I'm putting that on the Lord. Ain't accepting, ignore, just kicking down all the doors.
So we'll just get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Real Talk Podcast. I think it's number 7. We're here with Craig Smith, a very interesting man. Actually, with us today also, because we just interviewed him a minute ago, was George Mula. And actually, is it Mula? Am I saying it right? Okay, great. George gave me some tips and some things that I should ask you about.
Is that because he didn't want to answer them, or he didn't want these questions for himself?
Okay. Interesting things about you.
Great.
Questions.
Excellent.
And I'm going to do it. Wait, don't look for a second.
Okay, not looking.
Okay. We'll start.
Could I look?
Yeah, you can look now. To start off the show, I want to start with a little game.
Okay.
I'm going to show you pictures, and you're going to tell me if you know what's in the picture.
Oh, God. Well, I don't know what's in that picture.
You don't?
No.
I was hoping you would.
Oh, okay.
Because I noticed that you're a fan of whiskey.
Does
that look familiar now?
It looks a little bit more familiar, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
I'm just not looking at the bottle that much, I guess, on these whiskeys.
Right.
Yeah. 163 euros. Wow, okay.
I noticed on, I think your LinkedIn,
Yeah.
it says you're a member of some society, the single malt.
There could be a rumor that's
a rumor. It's a rumor.
Well, yeah, no, I think it does say that on there.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I got you. So is it whiskey with an E, or is it just whiskey with a Y?
I think it could be either, right?
Okay, what's the difference?
I'm always told to spell it with just the Y.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Irish is the
Is that the difference? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So the Irish has the E or doesn't have the E?
has the
Has the E, okay. So there you go.
All right,
Yeah.
we learned something already. Look at that. This is a podcast where it's supposed to be educational. It's supposed to be about real estate. So far, we've only talked about whiskey.
Yeah.
But let's move on. Do you know what this is?
No idea.
Okay. Obviously, it's a charged coupled device.
Okay. I still don't know what it is, but okay.
Okay. Never fear.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what this is?
It looks like something after New Year's Eve party.
Looks like confetti, right?
Oh, it's some kind of DNA strands or something, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's type 2 site-specific deoxyribonucleose-like restriction enzyme.
Right.
Obviously.
Okay, clearly, yes.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm getting at with these things?
Something abstract, I think.
No, actually not.
Okay.
Not. George tells me that your father is a Nobel Prize laureate. Is that true?
Yeah, he won the Nobel Prize for physics, yes.
Okay,
But
there we go. So
I'm winning prizes for parties and cocktail parties, so don't get these two confused. Yeah.
Who's the bigger winner? Really?
Yeah, right. Well, exactly. Yeah.
I was trying to find your father, and I couldn't. But turns out there are 5 Smiths, which won Nobel Prizes.
Really?
So,
okay.
Yeah, and for these things, and so that's why I was showing.
All right.
But anyway,
Is that true?
Is what true? That there's 5 Smiths?
No, got the Nobel Prize.
what did
That
he
is
win-
true.
what
I
did he
wouldn't.
win
I
it for?
wouldn't lie to you. Not on the first date. Yeah.
Can you tell us more about it? How was it growing up with Amanda?
Well, actually, he wasn't actually my father, but he'd married my mother.
Oh, okay.
When I turned 30, so
Okay.
I wasn't living at home.
Okay,
like,
gotcha.
That was genius.
So no. Like I said, I'm doing the cocktail parties.
He gets secondhand.
But they were actually working on a project that was really trying to prove one of the theories from Einstein's theories, and they had proved it. It took about 40 years.
Okay.
Einstein just didn't have the technology, so I guess they started working on it in the 60s, and he joined probably in the 20 years before they, still 80s or 90s, and I think he was there about 20 years, and it was something to do with black holes colliding and causing waves and
Interesting.
all that exciting stuff. Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit more, Craig, about your early days? You were born in the United States, right?
Yes, in Los Angeles.
Okay, and you grew up in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And I am told you owned some restaurants in Los Angeles.
I did own 2 Mexican restaurants in LA and opened them and built them, did the fit outs, ran them didn't really run them. I had other guys run them, but just really took care of more of the marketing and management of it for 5-6 years. Sold them and moved to Poland. Well, came to Europe I was going to take a couple of years off of working and come to Europe. Really the plan wasn't Poland at the beginning, but more Western Europe, Southern Europe.
Can we dig a little bit deeper into that, though? What was the idea behind the restaurants, and why did you open them?
Well, I liked Mexican food, and I thought, why not, instead of just buying it, why not sell it?
Okay. And how did it go?
Yeah, well, it went very well. We did really well. The reason I decided to sell them was we had a huge earthquake in '94 in LA, and we kept the restaurants open. Everything was going well, but you could see, for a small business, it could easily have burned down or something bad. And I thought, well, it's time to, and a lot of
on a good note.
And a lot of the light manufacturing companies were moving out of one of the areas, so or they weren't rebuilding. So I thought, well, it's probably time to.
It's a sign.
Time to leave. Yeah.
Okay, so then you came to Europe, and the plan wasn't necessarily Poland.
No, I didn't even think about Poland. It was more southern Italy, southern France, and we did kind of tour of Western Europe, and then just decided to stay. And I had one friend working in Europe, and he was doing some business in Poland, so I came with him a couple of times, and then just decided to stay.
Okay, and so now your the primary thing you do now is you run a publishing company?
Yeah, we're publishing, for the last probably almost 20 years, running a publishing company covering commercial real estate in Central Eastern Europe, Russia. It's all one publication covering the region, so covering office and warehouse, retail markets, a little bit of hotel investment as well, for the region. Okay,
and so basically people subscribe to your publications if they want in-depth analysis about.
Right. I mean, if they're in the commercial real estate business, it's interesting. If they're not, it wouldn't make any interest to them at all. But if they're buying or selling or developing office, retail, warehouse type business properties, then probably they're getting our magazine or reading the website.
Gotcha. And also, you throw some great parties.
Try to, yes. Yes, okay. I've been told there's some great ones, yes.
And that's related with the publishing?
Yeah, they're all commercial real estate, yeah. Okay. So it's events covering the regions. We do them here in Poland, in Hungary, in Romania, in Belarus, Ukraine.
Okay.
Once in the past, we were doing them in Moscow.
All right. Craig, so you probably know a lot more about real estate than the average Joe or someone that's there's a lot in the news recently about real estate. I feel like it's a topic that's growing all around the world. People want to invest in something, and real estate is obviously one of the most natural or first things they hear about. So what I'd love to dedicate this podcast to is talk about what someone with as much knowledge as you could tell someone perhaps that's just trying to get started.
Well, I think most people in real estate are, of course, investing in residential. They're buying a flat or they're buying a house. For commercial real estate, it's a whole new. It's usually funds or companies. If you're looking at high office family offices or some high net worth individuals, they might, but generally. With the commercial real estate, it's usually pretty big companies or big funds that have the money to buy it.
Right, and you focus more on the commercial side.
Yeah, only commercial. Yeah.
Okay, you only do commercial.
Yeah.
What about you personally? Do you do any investing yourself?
Just on the residential. Just kind of like everybody else, trying to get seeing. I think now it's getting very expensive for residential even as well. But I think there's it's a very different investment into commercial, and you really have to my mom just made $1 million on the house she bought and sold, and she knows nothing about real estate. Okay. So I think it would be very difficult on the commercial end. You need to have contacts and people leasing it and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, so from your own personal experience and knowing as much as you know about the commercial side of things, can you draw any correlations, or is there anything we can learn from the commercial perspective in the residential space?
Well, they're operating on kind of a different algorithm. So, sometimes things are going very bad in residential, but very good in different commercial. And also it depends on where and what. But I'd say probably the closest thing is sort of timing, location, timing. If you're looking to buy stuff, you know,
Okay.
they always say location, 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 but it's also timing. You know,
Okay.
when are you buying it? When are
Okay.
you selling it? Yeah.
All right, great point. Okay, can we talk more about maybe? I don't even know how I want to say what I'm trying to say here. Bear with me. So, someone who just wants to buy. Okay, how about this? If someone is thinking about investing in real estate and they don't want to go the residential route, is there an opportunity for someone that's just beginning to get into commercial real estate?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's the stock market. There's probably in looking at as we're sitting in Warsaw, there's probably 30 companies, like legitimate companies, either in construction or in development or in investment, and you can buy into the stock. I would imagine that would probably be one of the better ways of doing it at the moment. I think if you wanted to actually invest in commercial real estate, I mean, you just have to have a lot of money and the right contacts.
Okay, so generally buying into a fund is the closest that your average Joe can get into. The closest.
I would say buying stocks on the stock market. There's a lot of companies, and you really have to look at what is their net asset value, probably, and what land they have and what they can do with it, to if the stock price is good or not, or you just buy it because you think it's going to go up.
Okay, so what should someone look for if they want to invest in a stock of a real estate company, development company, or something?
Well, I would probably look at what they have, and I mean, it depends on what kind. If it's development, then it's really what is their land bank and what lands do they have and what are they looking to develop it on.
What is land bank? What does that mean?
Just how much land they own.
Okay.
They own that they haven't developed yet,
Okay.
and then generally it's in planning stages of permitting or zoning or design, and I'd really probably take a look at that. And, when it really comes down to it, as George was saying, it's just who's managing it.
Okay.
Or who's mismanaging it, in
Okay,
a lot of cases. So, I'd say who are they? What is their, how long have they been there?
Right.
It's a small market, so generally we know them.
Right. Okay. By the way, guys, everyone feel free to throw in your own questions if you have anything. George also, of course. Don't be shy. Feel free to ask any questions.
George doesn't need to ask any questions.
I mean,
George
George
knows everything.
obviously, but he can take the role of
The next awards party is 27th of January. How about that? That's
Okay. Okay. So that's we were talking. What kind of real estate we were talking about? Commercial and developers. So what other and okay. So we were talking about. You were saying.
Yeah, and you can buy into residential. You can buy stock in residential. There's a lot of not a lot, but there's several publicly traded companies that are just developing residential. So.
Okay.
If you don't have the money and to buy an apartment yourself, but you think that's the way to go, then you just need to take a look at who the developers are and what are they working on, and then decide if you've got a master's in finance, you can maybe guess it right. Yeah.
Okay. Your company, your publishing company. I know you can't say too much because if you want the information, you have to pay for it, right? But what kind of data does it collect, or what does it publish?
Right. So we're really covering what's happening on the market.
Okay.
We're not really covering any, rumors or what it could be. We're really just publishing what's happened. So it's usually things like one investor bought a portfolio
Okay.
of a developer, one, banks lend somebody money on something. So it's not really necessarily, it's more for business people in the market, especially if they're cross-border. It's very hard to get this information from any one source because newspapers, they're covering all kinds of news, and most of it's local. So if you're doing cross-border investing, developing, they can read our daily news or see it, and they'll get what's really happened on the market. So they know if somebody's bought something in Bulgaria or sold something in Moscow or, developing something in Warsaw.
Okay. And can I ask who is like your typical client? Who wants to know this information?
Well, Generally, almost everybody in the sector, but I would say, investors always want to know what's happening. Who's buying? What did they buy? What did they pay for it? Where's the trend going? Because they're the ones really putting in the money.
Right.
The other kind of service providers, they also want to know because they want to then contact those people that just bought that property because they probably... Usually, when someone buys, in a lot of cases, when companies buy properties, they think they're buying them to improve them. Not all, but they're buying them to add some extra leasable square meters or remodel it and charge more, or throw the old tenants out, put new ones in at higher rates. So a lot of times the service providers also want to know what's going on, whether it's the agents or the lawyers or the fit out people have been, refitting out all all the hotels when they closed, many of them, redesigned, did fit outs for that. So I would say across the board, anyone in commercial real estate, even construction companies, they see something new happening. They see someone got a permit or bought a piece of land. They want to bid on this. They know there's something going to be built there.
Okay, gotcha. Can you tell us how much does it cost to subscribe to or is there one subscription? What do your products look like?
It's about €1,000 a year.
Okay.
To get full information.
So a typical person, I'm saying like a beginning investor who wants to invest in, who has the money to buy stocks, but maybe doesn't have the money to invest in commercial real estate. Is this a person that might subscribe to your service or not necessarily?
No, I would say absolutely not. It would be more they're reading Rzeczpospolita or something like that, just really what's going on. No, these are guys that are really in the market that are either working, for themselves or for big companies, really needing to know who's lending, who's borrowing, what the trends are, who's leasing big space, or who, if they're on the retail side, who are the retailers coming into the market. People buying stock, no, there would be very little information on covering that kind of stuff.
Okay. Can you give us any hot information?
Well, I would just say, nothing. I mean, anyone in the industry already knows it, but I would, the sectors that are doing the best are really industrial, and anyone building a warehouse that,
right now.
Yeah, right now that you can put, that you can put e-commerce or fulfillment in is doing great. Most of that, I think the residential is doing quite well because they can resell, they can build it, sell it. Pretty quickly, or now they're coming out with this residential for rent. So that, at least on the business plans, show it's going to work, and the investors are putting in a lot of money, assuming it will. We'll see. It's starting to deliver buildings for that. So that and then it just depends on the market. If you think that hotels are going to take off and do well, you might want to invest in a hotel stock. If you think they're not going to close the shopping centers again, you might want to invest in some of those companies that have a lot of big shopping centers.
How about restaurants?
Yeah. Probably same thing, if you think they're going to stay open, and it seems like they're all pretty busy now.
Yeah.
But again, they're not all busy, but a lot of them seem pretty busy. As long as you're betting either way, if they're going to stay open and keep doing well, then you want to buy into them, right?
I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard that the restaurant business is a very hard business to be in, to manage.
I think it is. I think it's very hard now. I think it's gotten a lot harder.
Okay, so how does that look from the real estate point of view? Are there even funds that focus primarily on?
There are, yeah. I mean, there's big funds that, but it really depends on what it is. I mean, you have Amrest, who own all the Pizza Hut, KFC, Starbucks, and I'm sure they'll tell you it's a great business. And then you have other ones that probably less fast food and more fine dining. They're probably finding it a bit tougher.
Okay, gotcha. So. By the way, does that show, do these funds, do they have smaller margins? Do restaurants tend to have smaller margins than perhaps residential real estate or warehouses, stuff like this?
Probably now, yes.
Okay.
I think they're just smaller businesses. They're harder they're like little transactions,
Right.
50 zlotys or
Right.
$20 or whatever. It's
Right.
just, I wouldn't necessarily say some have bigger margins and some have smaller,
Okay.
I'm sure the guys at Amrest will say they have very big margins,
Yeah.
in total. Yeah. So.
All right, Craig. I don't have any really more deeper questions. Does anybody have anything they want to add?
Yeah. George,
I did a perfect job, is what you're trying to say.
that was great. George, what would you buy into now?
Well, one of the things that I mentioned, if you have sufficient cash and leverage, you can, for instance, buy supermarkets like Biedronka's, and you get probably 7, maybe 8% yield on that, and that's pretty safe, but you need a fair amount of cash.
And Biedronka's doing that, right? They're selling them to franchisees at the moment. Yeah, they're selling them off.
Yeah, and they're very, very strong covenant, so not much risk. They're very popular in the very much the convenience places. So I mean that's an example.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, personally, I would rather stick to not the business stuff and just
Okay.
the buildings
Okay.
and charge Biedronka rent.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm.
Right. So yeah, that's right. They're selling the real estate,
It's a
but
great-
they're also
great
selling.
minds.
Yeah,
Think
but they're also selling the franchises. So I would stay away from the franchise and just own the real estate. Yeah.
Talking about the real estate,
Right.
buy
Yeah.
a 10-year lease.
Yeah, it's like an annuity almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be careful because they try and make you sign a lease with an option for another 10 years. You have to be very careful about that because probably rents will go up and you may be stuck with a lease which you're getting less income from than you would otherwise do. So it's probably better just to stick with that business, just do a straight 10-year lease.
Yeah, and just and negotiating with the Biedronka real estate guys, they're pretty savvy about what they're
Yeah.
doing. So I'm not sure you could not too many people can out negotiate them.
So basically, what George and Craig are talking about is you would buy some real estate, and then you would what? You would reach out to Biedronka, or how does this kind of deal work?
Well, I mean, well, you can do a number of different things. I mean, you could develop a building for Biedronka and then they sign the lease, or in which case actually you get a better yield, but then there's more risk. Or there are developers who are building for Biedronka, they've signed the lease already, and you just buy from them.
Yeah, after it's built, and
After it's built.
So there are a lot of avenues you can get into. Even there are a lot of ways you can get
Yeah,
to get into this kind of thing.
I mean, developing is a difficult business.
Yeah, I would say it's if you can just buy if you're not experienced, just buy the building after it's built and Biedronka's moved in, lease is signed. Then
Okay.
it's very easy to see what your profit's going to be. If you want to start developing, well, that's a lot of brain damage, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
But you have to be careful because I did something similar with some friends, but we actually bought an empty building and we leased it to Intersport, the sports shop,
Yeah.
on a 10-year lease. But and actually we refinanced it 3 times, so we got our money back fourfold. from it.
Good.
But then we never. My partner, I was just a financial investor, but I had a partner who was dealing with the operational aspects, and he never fixed the parking arrangements permanently. So we had just a very short lease. And what we wanted, because we wanted to sell it, we needed a long lease to match the lease we had with Intersport. And we never managed to negotiate it, and that was a huge mistake because what then happened is that we were trying to force the owners to give us this lease, so we stopped paying for the parking.
Ah.
And but we took on this massive French corporation. But now it's now owned by Westfield actually.
Oh, okay.
You need to be careful who you choose to go to war with, because what then happened is that they fenced off the whole shop.
Yeah.
So nobody could come. This was a freestanding unit, and it was, I think, the third best performing Intersport in Poland, because they specialised in big stuff. So if you want to buy a bike or skis or whatever, it was great because you could come and park and just put the stuff straight in your car. Whereas all the other ones were in shopping centres, and it's a nuisance to carry stuff out.
Right.
So it did very well, but then they couldn't trade. So we had a big issue on our hands. And
Westfield has a lot of lawyers.
yeah, I mean, I didn't. Westfields came when we were dealing with the French guys, and they're just executives in big corporations. They don't care about anything. You know?
No, they're just like, put up a fence.
Yeah.
We'll fight it out for 10 years.
And,
Talk about chess, it's like...
So we actually ended up just giving the keys to the bank. We made our money anyway.
Right. Sure, they had to deal with the French. Good. All right.
Okay, so we know where George would put his money. Last question for you, Craig. If you had to put some money somewhere...
Well, I guess I would put it more towards the, like I said, more towards the fulfillment, the e-commerce guys, because they
Okay, but a smaller amount of money.
Right. Well, probably small apartments in the center of town.
Okay.
Yeah, probably any city. Yeah, any
Okay.
capital city would work. Yeah.
Gotcha. Nice. Awesome. Craig, it was so awesome to have you here.
Yeah,
Thank
it was
you so
great
much.
to be here, and thanks for the invitation.
Sure. Craig, you have your own show. Do you call it a podcast, or is it just a morning show, or?
Yeah, well, we have a show called Coffee with Craig. That's we video it, so I guess it's not really a podcast.
Oh, okay.
And but we do it
We do too. Also.
We do it every We do it every day of 10 minutes, only covering commercial real estate. So
Okay.
if you're in commercial real estate, you're probably seen it. If you're not in commercial real estate, probably won't be that interesting to watch.
Is that also you have to be you have to subscribe, or you publish this?
We put a lot of it on every day. We put a lot of it on on our social media as well. So some of it we give out for free every day. So 10 minutes, they can watch it on LinkedIn or Facebook or our website or something.
Right. All right. Great. So be sure to check that out, Craig. Is there anywhere? Check out Europa Property, right? That's
Yeah. The website's europaproperty.com, and if you're in commercial real estate, that's probably where to go for information for Central Eastern Europe.
Exactly. Thanks again, Craig.
All right. Great to be here. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks again. All right. Bye, guys.
Only way to live.
All right. Fantastic.
Gotta do it big.
So you're here for the weekend doing shows?
I gotta do it big. Gotta do it big. It's the only way to live. Come on.